But when I think about empathy or compassion, I think it's a business essential. We are in the business of basically meeting unmet, unarticulated needs of customers. And there's no way you're going to be able to get that consistently right if you don't have that deep sense of empathy.
Think about the last time you logged into your computer. You probably didn't think about it. You just did it. Password, the account, the little spinning circle. It was automatic, familiar, normal. But here's the part most people never question. That account isn't just a password, it's a thread. And if you follow it, really follow it, you start to realize it connects to almost everything you do on a screen. Your files, your email, your calendar, your work, your identity. You didn't decide to build your digital life around Microsoft. It just happened. But that's not the strange part. The strange part is what happens when you try to leave. Because leaving doesn't feel like switching software. It feels like pulling on a thread that's connected to everything. And the harder you pull, the more you realize how much of your digital life is tied to a system you never consciously chose. And that's where this story actually begins. And the reason it feels that way is because it didn't start as a system. It started as something simple. Windows was the operating system your school used, or your office, or the one that came pre-installed on the laptop your parents bought you when you were 12. You didn't choose it the way you'd choose a phone or a car, it was just there. And then came Word, then Excel, then Outlook, later Teams. Each one filled a real need. Documents needed to be written, emails needed to be sent, meetings needed to happen. Microsoft had the tools, and the tools worked. That was the whole story. Or so it seemed. There was nothing sinister about any of it. It felt like software, like a product you used and then put down. But that wasn't the real reason these tools spread so far, so fast. It wasn't just that they were useful, it was that they were everywhere. In schools, in governments, in corporations, in hospitals. And when something is everywhere, it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like the default, like the way things are. That distinction matters more than it might seem. At some point in the 2010s, something shifted. Microsoft stopped being a software company in the traditional sense. Quietly, methodically, it started building something else. A connected layer that sat underneath everything you did. It started with the cloud. OneDrive didn't just store your files, it moved them off your hard drive and into Microsoft's infrastructure. Gradually, the files you thought you owned began living somewhere else, somewhere you accessed through a subscription, through an account, through a permanent, always-on connection. And then there was Azure. Most people never see Azure. But if you work for a company with more than a few dozen employees, Azure is probably running something in the background of your workday. The authentication that lets you log into your work apps. The storage behind the tools your team uses. The infrastructure holding your company's data in place. This is where things start to change. Because now Microsoft isn't just your Word documents, it's in the architecture of where you work. The invisible scaffolding that your entire professional life runs on. And then came identity. The Microsoft account became the key to everything. Not just Windows, not just Office, but Xbox, LinkedIn, GitHub, Teams, Outlook, Visual Studio, Bing, Edge. One login, one profile, one thread connecting every corner of your digital existence. Think about what that means for a moment. When you sign into your work laptop in the morning, you're not just starting a computer. You're authenticating into a system, a web of connected services that knows what files you've opened, which meetings you've attended, which emails you've sent, and which application you've used and when. That's not a feature. That's a relationship. And like most relationships, it deepens the longer you stay. At least that's what it looks like from the outside. From the inside, it still feels like software, like tools, like the normal rhythm of a workday. And that's precisely the point. If you're into stories like this, understanding the systems behind everyday technology, consider subscribing. Now this is where things start to change. The moment you notice the trap is not dramatic. There's no alarm, no warning, just a small, quiet friction. The first time you try to step outside the system. Maybe you get a new laptop that runs Mac OS. You move your files over. Most things work, but OneDrive integration isn't quite the same. The folder structure feels different. A shared document someone sent you opens with a slight formatting shift. Teams on Mac runs a little slower, feels a little off. Small things. Individually, they barely register. But they add up. Or maybe your company switches tools, tries to move away from Microsoft 365 toward something else. And suddenly you realize how deep the wiring goes. The user accounts are tied to Azure Active Directory. The calendar invites are Outlook formatted. The files are stored in SharePoint. Switching isn't a matter of downloading a different app. It means rebuilding the entire infrastructure of how your organization communicates and stores information. And then there's the personal side. Your photos synced to OneDrive. Your saved passwords stored in Edge. Your Xbox achievements linked to the same account as your work email. Years of documents in formats the rest of the world can open, but that work best inside Microsoft's own tools. None of this was forced on you. That's the important part. You made choices, reasonable choices at the time, and those choices slowly became a structure you live inside. The longer you've been in the system, the more of yourself you've placed into it. Files, contacts, history, workflows, muscle memory. Leaving doesn't require a dramatic decision, it requires work. Real, sustained, disruptive work. Migrating files, relearning tools, rebuilding habits, asking colleagues to change the way they send you things. And most people don't do that. Not because they've evaluated the alternatives and found them lacking, but because the cost of leaving in time, friction, and disruption is higher than the cost of staying. Users don't stay because the product is perfect. They stay because leaving has a price. It doesn't feel like control. That's the thing. It feels like notifications, like small inconveniences, like a nudge to upgrade your storage plan, or a suggestion to use Edge instead of Chrome, or a prompt to sign into your Microsoft account to access a feature that used to just work. One by one, these moments are trivial. But there's a pattern underneath them. A slow, consistent pressure in one direction. Always toward more integration. Always toward a deeper account. A broader subscription. A tighter connection to the ecosystem. And the frustrating part isn't that it's hostile. It's that it isn't. Microsoft isn't blocking you from doing anything. They're just making the path of least resistance run through their system. Sign in here, store that there. Use this browser, try this app. Everything is optional. Technically. But the optional things accumulate until opting out requires a kind of sustained, deliberate effort that most people simply don't have the time or energy to maintain. The feeling that results isn't anger. It's something quieter. A vague sense that your digital environment is organized around someone else's priorities, not yours. That the defaults were not set for your convenience, but for Microsoft's continued relevance in your life. That feeling is easy to dismiss, and most of the time, people do. But it's worth sitting with for a moment, because it points to something real. Here's the thing about Microsoft that takes a while to see. They're not selling you software anymore. They haven't been for a long time. What Microsoft is building, what they've been building for the better part of 2 decades, is an ecosystem. A self-reinforcing network of products, services, and accounts that becomes more valuable to you the deeper you go, and more difficult to exit the longer you stay. This is not accidental. It's not incidental. It is the strategy. Every product Microsoft has built or acquired in the last 15 years connects back to this architecture. Azure anchors enterprises. Teams anchors communication. LinkedIn anchors professional identity. GitHub anchors developers. Office 365 anchors productivity. And now Copilot, Microsoft's AI layer, is being woven into all of it. Into Word, into Teams, into Windows itself. Each piece reinforces the others. Each new service gives you another reason to stay inside the system. Each integration makes the outside feel slightly more foreign, slightly more inconvenient, slightly less worth the trouble. This is what strategists call lock-in. Not the kind that happens through contracts or restrictions, the kind that happens through depth, through accumulating so much of your data, your habits, and your workflows inside one system that leaving becomes structurally difficult. And the genius of it, if that's the right word, is that it never feels coercive. You're not trapped, you're just embedded. Your files are here, your colleagues are here, your history is here. The system knows you. It remembers your preferences, your recent documents, your meeting patterns. Starting over elsewhere means starting over with nothing, building from scratch what the ecosystem already holds. This is not the story of a company doing something wrong. It's the story of a company doing something very, very well. Building infrastructure so essential, so deeply woven into how people work and live, that the question of whether to use it barely comes up anymore. You don't decide to use Microsoft. You just do. There's a version of this story that's simple. Microsoft made good products. People used them. Companies built on them. And now, after decades of adoption, switching is hard. That's true. But it's not the whole story. The whole story is about what convenience becomes when it's designed intentionally, at scale, over time. It's about the difference between a product you choose and a system you inhabit. Between software you run and infrastructure that runs through everything. Windows used to be something you owned. A disk, then a license, then a download. Something that sat on your computer and did what you asked. Now it's a part of something larger. A continuous service tied to an account, connected to a cloud, updated without your input, nudging you towards subscriptions and integrations and AI features woven into the fabric of your daily work. You still have the desktop. You still have the files. You still have the familiar blue windows and the start menu and the taskbar. But what you're sitting inside, the actual system around you, is something different from what it used to be. Something you didn't fully choose, but also something you haven't chosen to leave. And maybe that's fine. Maybe the convenience is worth it. Maybe the integration is genuinely useful. Maybe the alternative, a patchwork of disconnected tools, is worse. Or maybe it isn't really a choice anymore. Maybe that's the point. In retrospect, stories behind the decisions, secrets, and turning points that shape our world.